As lies go, this one was a whopper. You've heard the story by now. Notre Dame football player Manti Te'o was duped by another man who was pretending to be a woman. They had an online relationship that ended when the fictional girlfriend named Lene died, and the story became a media sensation. This week, the man who perpetrated the hoax spoke with Dr. Phil. He says he did it because he was in love with Te'o. But is he telling the whole truth? I want to bring in Steve Van Aperen. He's known as the human lie detector. He's an expert in interviewing and detecting deception, trained by the FBI. He's worked with cops around the world, training them in lie detection and human behavior. Steve, I know you've seen the interview, but I want to let folks take a little look at it first.
Me, Renee, I was hurting. It hurt me. Like, it hit me like a brick wall. Like, I was like, whoa. Like, you know, I've given so much into this, and I realized right then in that moment that I poured so much into Lene that I myself wasn't getting nothing. And look what I was left with. I was crying that morning. I was hurt emotionally. Just all kinds of things were just took over. And so right then and there, I made the decision, I can't do this Lene thing anymore.
Now, looking at this interview, is this someone who is generally telling the truth or not, and how can you tell?
Well, firstly, I look at how people take ownership or possession of the story, and I also look for the emotions being in the correct places, and also how people answer questions. So I believe he is telling the truth, in fact, in relation to these issues, because the emotions are in the right place. I may be able to think of a lie, but can I communicate it effectively with believability and credibility? And that's what liars have to consider when they're telling a story or trying to impress somebody. But in this case, the emotions were in the right place, and the language reflected that.
So the bigger the lie gets, does it get harder or easier to lie, and does the lie get harder for someone to detect?
Well, research shows we're not very good at spotting a lie when in fact faced with a lie. But bear in mind, for every one lie a person tells, they have to invent 2 or 3 to protect themselves from the first one. And secondly, they've got to have a great memory because they don't want to contradict what they've previously said. And that becomes a problem because, a la Bill Clinton with Monica Lewinsky, he got deeper and deeper and deeper until there was no escape exit. So they do get more difficult, and we're not very good at picking lies.
Interesting, interesting. If you had to give me 3 things for those of us who aren't trained that we should look for if someone is lying in an important conversation, what would they be?
Well, firstly, is the person answering the question, or are they being evasive, omissive, dismissive, or do they deflect or answer the question with another question? That's a dead giveaway. Number 2 is, does their body language reflect what they're saying? Is there conflict or contradiction between what they're saying, what their body language is in fact expressing? Because their body language is often much more overt. And thirdly, are they taking ownership? Usually you'll find, in a lot of homicide cases I've worked on, truthful people will take ownership and possession. So not only will they tell you, if they're relaying a truthful story, what happened or what occurred, but how they felt. Whereas deceptive people don't do that. They'll actually create distance, disassociation, and separation. So they're very robotic because they don't want to trip themselves up.
Mr. Van Aperen, very interesting. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.